You remember Bessie as a strange road car from one scene in Wheelbarrows. Heavy, slow, almost mute. Just a piece of technique that is needed to punish McQueen and make him lay the road. Most viewers don't look at it at all, because that's exactly what Pixar wants. They want you to see Bessie as a backdrop. The tool, an object. A car that doesn't mean anything, but the longer you look at it, the worse it gets. Because in the world of Wheelbarrows, almost everyone has a face, a look, a character, a will, a place in society. They laugh, get angry, make friends, suffer, build a career, grow old. From the very beginning, this world teaches us one simple idea. Cars are alive here, and that's why Bessie is so scary. She has almost none of the things that make everyone else a person. There is no normal face, no eyes where they should be, no speech. There is no freedom of movement. It is pulled as a thing, used as a thing, punished through it as a thing, and here comes the question that Pixar never says out loud. If Bessie is not a person, then what is she doing inside the world of personalities? And if she's a person after all, then why is she being treated like equipment? Today, we'll take a look at the quietest and possibly darkest anomaly of the entire franchise. Because Bessie isn't just a road car. Bessie is the borderline where the world of Wheelbarrows stops being a cute fairy tale about live cars and turns into something much darker. In a world where some machines get a face, a voice, and the right to be someone, while others get only a function, and if Bessie really feels anything, then one of Pixar's kindest stories has been hiding not a character in plain sight all this time, but a legalized form of exploitation. Today, we will answer one question. Where in Wheelbarrows the personality ends and the tool begins? First, let's fix what exactly is shown to us in the canon. Bessie lives in Radiator Springs, and at first glance her role seems extremely simple. This is a road car that the city needs for laying asphalt. When McQueen destroys a road and gets punished, it's Bessie who gets him hooked up, and it's through her that he's forced to repair the damage he's done. Later, Bessie performs the same function for others. It does not argue, does not resent, does not enter into a dialogue, does not demonstrate its own will. It is simply rolled out when someone needs to do a job. And here the strangeness begins. Because Bessie doesn't exist somewhere in the background, as an ordinary soulless mechanism from the human world. It exists within the universe, where machines talk, think, feel, and build society. Here, even the most minor characters are read as individuals. They have emotions, reactions, facial expressions, their own rhythm of behavior. And Bessie doesn't have much of that. She doesn't look like a citizen of this world, but like an object that has been built into it for some reason. The most important detail is that Bessie is almost devoid of those signs by which Pixar usually marks life. She doesn't have the usual eyes on the windshield. There is no full-fledged facial expressions. There is no normal interaction with others on equal terms. She doesn't appear as the subject of the scene. It appears as a function of the scene, not as someone, but as something. And this is not a small matter. For the world of Wheelbarrows, visual language means everything. If the machine gets a face, it is given an inner world. If she is given a look, she is given the right to be someone. Pixar has a very good understanding of how anthropomorphism works. They know that the eyes are not just a design, they are a sign of personality. That is why Bessie's lack of eyes is perceived not as a stylistic accident, but as a wake-up call. She doesn't look alive by the rules of this world, but there is a second oddity, even deeper. Bessie isn't just different from the others. They treat her differently. They don't persuade her, they don't ask her, they don't discuss anything with her. It's being used. She gets picked up. They punish you through it. Dirty work is done through it. This is no longer just a difference in design. It is a difference in status. And here we come to the main question of the entire video. What exactly is Bessie? If it is not alive, then in the world of wheelbarrows there are machines that initially exist as tools and not as individuals. This means that the entire universe is much tougher than it seems. It has not only citizens, but also working bodies that are not even supposed to be anyone. But if Bessie is still alive, if there is any consciousness inside her, then the situation becomes much darker. Then all of Radiator Springs has been using a creature for years that can't object, can't refuse, can't even show that it's hurting or unpleasant. Then Bessie isn't just a paving machine. This is a silent character that the whole world has long ceased to perceive as a person. That's why Bessie is so important. It breaks the main comfort principle of the franchise. Before it, it is easy for us to believe that all cars in this world are more or less equal, just different in character, class, and appearance. But Bessie brings up another thought, much more unpleasant. Perhaps in the world of wheelbarrows, not every car has the right to be someone. Perhaps the right to a person here also needs to be earned, obtained by design, or simply had from birth. And this is no longer a cute detail in the background. This is a crack in the core of the entire universe. Then we look at Bessie not as a background, but as a body. In cars, the design is never random. Pixar can hide the meaning behind a joke as much as they want, but their visual language always reveals the truth before the plot. And if you want to understand who a character is in this world, first look not at what they say about him, but at how he works. Ordinary machines in this universe have the main thing. Face. Not just a set of details, but a face. Eyes on the windshield. View position. Facial expressions. The direction of emotion. Through this, Pixar immediately tells us who is in front of us. A living thing. Personality. Someone who has inner peace. Eyes in wheelbarrows are not a decoration. This is a sign of consciousness. This is the point at which the other person looks and understands that this is someone, not something. Bessie doesn't have much of that. She doesn't look at us the way everyone else does. It doesn't count as a full-fledged face. Its front part is not going to the usual anthropomorphic structure. There is no emotional center through which the wheelbarrow world usually recognizes life. And this immediately puts her in a different position. While McQueen, Matter, Sally, and Doc exist as characters, Bessie exists as the mass. As a heavy industrial body, created not for communication, but for performing a function. And this is very important, because even the weird characters in the franchise still retain personality traits. They may be rusty, ugly, old, scary, broken, but Pixar still gives them a look. Even if that look is disturbing, even if it's comical, even if it's awkward, it's still there. And Bessie seems to have been deliberately taken out of this rule. She looks not like an unusual person, but like a machine that has not been brought to the level of personality at all. The next detail is even more important. Bessie doesn't move like a normal character. They're dragging her. It's being pulled. It is launched from the outside. She doesn't enter the scene as the subject of the action. It appears in it as an instrument of action. This is a very subtle but critical difference. In the world of wheelbarrows, movement is almost always about will. The character goes because he wants to. He turns because he chooses. It accelerates because it reacts. Movement here is a form of intent. In Bessie's case, movement is separate from intention. It is moved by others. And this is where visual discomfort really starts to work. Because this is not just heavy equipment. Here is a body that is located inside the living world, but does not have its basic rights. It is present in society, but does not participate in it on an equal footing. It is useful, but not free. It is needed, but not recognized as a full-fledged someone. See how the scenes with Bessie are constructed dramatically. No one tries to read her reaction. No one expects an answer from her. No one builds an exchange with it. In the frame, she is not the interlocutor. It is a mechanism through which people are humiliated, punished, corrected, and re-educated. It's almost intimidating. Because even if you remove all the theories and leave only pure directing, the camera itself already tells us one thing. Radiator Springs residents don't see Bessie as their equal. And now, the most unpleasant part. The longer you look at her, the more you realize that Bessie doesn't look primitive. She looks bereft. That's the whole horror of it. It would be easier if it seemed like an ordinary soulless construction machine from our world. But the problem is that it is placed in a space where technology has long been a society. And against this background, its emptiness does not look natural, but violent. Not as a normal state, but as the absence of something that should have been. That's why Bessie is so worried. She's not ugly, not aggressive, not monstrous. It disturbs the silence. The fact that in the world of faces, she has almost no face. In the world of voices, she has no voice. In the world of will, it has no trajectory of its own. It is as if she is standing on the very edge of animation, close enough to life to inspire empathy, and far enough away from it that everyone around you can safely use it as a thing. And when you see this, the question can no longer be pushed aside. Bessie doesn't look like an exception to the design. Bessie looks like a system that gave some machines the right to be individuals and left others only a useful body. Now, we can move on. Because if visually Bessie is already standing on the borderline between someone and something, then the next step is even darker. You need to understand whether it is random at all. Or is Bessie the first proof that in the world of wheelbarrows there is a whole class of machines designed not to live, but to serve? Now we need to draw the first big conclusion from this. The easiest mistake you can make with Bessie is to think that she's just drawn in a weird way. That Pixar needed a road unit, they didn't make a full-fledged character out of it. And that's where it ends. But for the world of wheelbarrows, this answer is too weak. Because the universe itself has already shown us a different rule. Almost everything that enters the social space is animated here. Here, face and character are given to those who live in the city, work, talk, participate in events, and occupy a place in the structure of society. And Bessie is just inside that structure. They know her. It's being used. It is included in the system of punishment and labor. That is, it is not garbage on the background and not a piece of decor. It's built into the Radiator Springs lifestyle order, and if that's the case, then Bessie isn't an accident, it's a category. That's where the real darkness begins. Because Bessie looks like the first clear boundary between the two types of creatures in this world. On one side of the personality machine, those who have a face, a voice, the right to choose, to be offended, to dream, to lose, to build relationships. On the other side of the machine are functions, those who exist not for their own life, but for the benefit of others. They are not asked, they are not recognized, they are not read as someone. They are needed exactly as long as they perform the task. Bessie falls perfectly into the second category, and this changes the whole tone of the franchise. Because then the world of wheelbarrows is not just a society of living cars, but a society with an internal division into those who are considered someone and those who are considered something, for citizens and equipment, on personalities and useful bodies. Think about how much darker it is than it looks on the surface. In ordinary human logic, technology does not raise a moral question. We use the ice rink because the ice rink is not alive. We don't think about his rights, will, or status. But the world of wheelbarrows has long removed this safe distance. He taught the viewer to look at cars as creatures, and that's why Bessie is so stressed out. It is just enough of a creature to trigger an alarm in us, and just enough of a personality to keep everyone else using it in peace. One word is important here: inequality. Before Bessie, you might have thought that the differences in the world of wheelbarrows were mostly cosmetic. Someone is richer, someone is faster, someone is older, someone is more popular, but basically they all remain equal beings. McQueen and Mater are infinitely different, but both are recognized as individuals. Sally and Luigi are completely different from each other, but both have a voice, the right to choose, and a place in society. Even rusty, funny, clumsy, or secondary cars are still someone. Bessie doesn't have that. And if one car in the world does not have this status, then the status of a person in cars is not universal. So it is not issued to everyone. This is the first big break. Because from that moment on, Bessie stops being just a weird technique and becomes proof of the system. A system where not every machine is created for life. Some machines may immediately exist as working shells. No face, no equality, no independent role. They don't need society because society needs them only as a continuation of labor. Such a device makes the world of wheelbarrows much closer to the caste system than to a cute fairy tale. Some get their own personality, others get assigned. Some people can build a biography, others serve as infrastructure. Some exist for their own sake. Others exist for the sake of order, comfort, and convenience. And in that sense, Bessie isn't just a road car. It is the foundation under the feet of a city that no one is used to noticing. Not a hero, not a resident, not a participant in the story, but a service mass, without which everything works worse, but which itself has no right to become the center of the frame. Now, look at it even harder. If Bessie is a separate class, then she's almost certainly not alone. It's just that she's one of the few people we've been shown close enough to feel uncomfortable. This means that other machines of the same status may exist somewhere outside the history. Cars without a full face, without equal status, without rights that we automatically assign to other characters. A whole layer of the world that keeps a civilization on itself, but is not considered part of this civilization in the full sense. And that's when the Springs radiator starts to look very different. A cute town that seemed warm and almost homely suddenly stands against the backdrop of silent infrastructure that has no voice. This is no longer just a place where cars make friends and teach each other about life. It is a place where the very idea of identity can be a privilege. The worst part is that no one in the film shows any existential doubts about Bessie. No one stops and asks her how she feels. No one builds any moral relationship with her. This means that for the world of wheelbarrow society, its status has long been decided. And if the inhabitants of this world do not hesitate to use it as a thing, then the border between someone and something they do not just exist, but has long been considered the norm. That's why Bessie is so important. It shows not an exception, but a rule that the rest of the characters are just lucky not to embody on themselves. In the world of wheelbarrows, being a car is not enough to automatically be a person. You still need to get into the category that is given this right at all. But here comes the next, even more unpleasant question. Does Bessie really belong to a separate class from the very beginning? Or we're not looking at a car that we never thought was a person, but something much more creepy, on the form that stands between the animate machine and the tool. A creature that hadn't completely disappeared, but was almost no longer someone, because the world of wheelbarrows has already shown us strange intermediate states. And if Bessie is not a pure tool, then it may not be the bottom of the system, but a transitional form within it. Then what lies between a citizen, an animal, and a tool? And that's when the question gets even bigger. Bessie is no longer just proving that there is a technique without personality in this world. She begins to point out that life itself in wheelbarrows can be multi-layered. Not a single state, but a ladder where some machines stand at the top as full-fledged entities, while others slowly slide down to the level of function. That's where we're going right now. Because to understand what Bessie really is, you need to look at the other strange creatures in this franchise, on those who have long lived somewhere between a person, an animal, and a tool. There is one detail about cars that is easy to miss if you look at this world too literally. Not all of its inhabitants exist on the same level. Formally, we have one universe of machines, but in fact, there are already different stages of life inside it. And the more closely you look at the strange creatures in this franchise, the clearer one thing becomes. Bessie isn't alone. She's just standing at the most awkward point on the stairs. At the top level are full-fledged personalities. McQueen, Doc, Sally, Mater, Luigi, Flo, all those the world recognizes as its own. They have a face, a character, a voice, freedom of movement, a social role, and the right to be someone. They don't just exist, they participate. They can make mistakes, change, take offense, love, choose. This is the most humanized form of life in the world of wheelbarrows. But below this stage, something else begins. Think of tractors. They're alive, but not like the others. They behave almost like animals. They are intimidated. They fall asleep standing up. They can be knocked over like cows, and the film presents this as a joke. They don't fit into society on an equal footing. They don't have the same social density that ordinary machines do. These are not citizens of Radiator Springs. This is closer to a separate, simplified form of life that the world uses and perceives differently. And next to them is Frank. Another strange case. He is no longer just animal-like, but also not quite an ordinary person in the human sense. He has a lot of rage, strength, and instinct. It acts as a watchman, as a territory guard, as a huge creature whose function is almost fused with behavior. He doesn't look like McQueen. He doesn't look like Doc. He doesn't even look like the Master. It is alive, but this life is arranged on a different principle. And if you put the usual characters, tractors, Frank and Bessie, next to each other, a very unpleasant picture appears. Before us is not a single world of equal machines, but a gradation. At the top of the personality. Below are semi-instinctive creatures. Even lower, perhaps, are the following functions. Bessie fits perfectly into this logic as the next level of subjectivity reduction. It is no longer an animal, because at least animal-like machines have behavior. They react, get scared, run, express at least some inner life. But Bessie is also not up to a full-fledged personality. It seems to be even lower. Not a beast or a citizen, not a conversationalist or predator. Just a useful body built into the work process. That's what makes it really creepy. Because tractors at least seem like a natural branch of the world. Frank seems rude, but still alive. And Bessie looks like a gap between levels. As a form in which only the necessary minimum for the function was left from life. If at all, they left at least something. And if this latter really exists, then the world of wheelbarrows is much tougher than it seems. Then, animateness is not absolute here. It is unevenly distributed. Some are given a full-fledged inner world. Others are left with only instinct. Still others may even be held at the level of a tool, so that civilization can stand on someone. This is where Bessie becomes especially important, because it no longer looks like a separate oddity. It looks like proof that life in wheelbarrows has not only social castes, but also ontological ones. Not just fast and slow, rich and poor, new and old. And those who can be a person, and those who are stuck below this right, this reverses everything. Because then the question isn't whether Bessie is still alive. The question is different. How far can a car be lowered in this world before it is no longer considered something by society? And this is where the darkest twist in the whole theory begins. Because there is a version even worse than a separate class of machine functions. Much worse. What if Bessie wasn't born a tool? What if she became one later? What if we are not looking at an empty shell, but at a suppressed personality that the world has long learned not to notice? And this is where Bessie stops being just a strange machine and turns into a tragedy. Because the worst-case scenario isn't that she was never a person. The worst-case scenario is that it could have been one, but then it was reduced to a function. Not completely destroyed, not disassembled, not removed from the world, but left inside it in a form where there is too little of the will left for anyone to ask uncomfortable questions at all. Think about how cruel this is for the wheelbarrow universe. In this world, personality is read through the face, voice, movement, reaction, through the ability to be visible. But if you take away almost all the ways a creature can express itself, it doesn't necessarily cease to exist as someone inside. It will simply no longer be visible to others. And then the most convenient thing happens for any system of violence. The victim remains close, but society learns to perceive it as an object. This is how Bessie works. It is too alive in the context of this world not to cause alarm, and at the same time too deprived to make others feel moral discomfort. This is the perfect form of oblivion. It did not disappear, but was taken out of recognition. If you look at it from this angle, there is a completely different heaviness in the scenes of the first film. McQueen's punishment isn't just hard work. It is literally connected to a creature whose own status has long been of no interest to anyone. He pulls Bessie like a harness, like a load, like a production body, through which the city forces the culprit to repair the damage. For everyone around us, this is the normal order of things, and it is this normality that is scariest of all, because real horror almost never starts with a monster. It begins at the moment when cruelty becomes habitual, when no one is shouting, no one is outraged, no one is asking a question, because everyone has already agreed to the role that the system has assigned to the silent body. Bessie is such a role. It's useful. It is stable. She doesn't argue. It doesn't interfere. It does not occupy an extra place in the moral picture of the world. And if she really has at least some of her personality, then Radiator Springs doesn't look like a warm city where everyone knows each other, but like a place that has learned to live close to exploitation and no longer notice it. And this is not a small grim detail. This is a huge coup for the entire franchise. Because before Bessie, we can believe that the differences between cars and cars are mostly external. Someone is faster, someone is older, someone is richer, someone is more beautiful, someone is rustier. But Bessie hints at a much more unpleasant division. Not between the successful and the unsuccessful, but between those who are considered individuals and those who are previously placed in the category of useful bodies. Some cars get their history, others get assigned. Some people can change their lives. Others exist as extensions of someone else's will. Some people have the right to be noticed. Others should be so inconspicuous that no one feels guilty about using them every day. And that already makes Bessie one of the darkest figures in the entire series. Not because she's aggressive, not because she looks like a monster, but because it shows how deeply depersonalization can be embedded in this world. How easily can a living machine society accept that not everyone in it is supposed to be someone? The most powerful thing about Bessie is that Pixar doesn't explain much. They don't give us a direct answer. They don't make a separate drama out of it. They don't say its status out loud. They just put it in the frame and let the world treat it as if the issue is long closed. And when the world inside the story never doubts something so terrible, this is usually the main signal. This is the norm for them. And now, look at what it changes in the heart of wheelbarrows. If a person in this world can be not just not given, but actually pushed beyond the limits of public perception, then the whole nice atmosphere of Radiator Springs begins to crack. A kind city, cozy streets, friendship, mutual assistance, a small community. All this continues to exist, but against the background of a very inconvenient truth. Their warmth is not universal. Their humanity is selective. It works for those they recognize as their own, and Bessie wasn't recognized as her own. That's why the question of her is so difficult. If it's alive, can't she talk? Does she have a face that we can't see? And what happens to a world where a creature can be brought to such a state and stop considering it a problem? At this point, Bessie is no longer just a character. It becomes a moral test for the entire wheelbarrow universe. And, to be honest, the world passes this test very poorly. Because in any lighter version of the franchise, someone would have to stop and look at it differently at least once. Doubt it just once. At least once, let us feel that this is not just a technique, but this is not happening. And the silence around Bessie grows louder than any scream. That's why it stays in your head for so long. Not because of the design and not because of a single scene, but because it embodies the most terrible possibility of this world. That you can be here in plain sight and still be completely excluded from the list of those who are considered alive. And if this is true, then the main question of the franchise is no longer about speed, fame, or friendship. The main question is much darker. How many more such Bessies exist outside of the frame? How many machines in this world have been created, broken, or simplified to a state where they are only required to be useful? How many times has Wheelbarrow Society looked at such bodies and chosen not to see anyone in them? That's why Bessie isn't a minor oddity in the first movie. This is the crack through which the entire hidden hierarchy of the world is visible. A world where the right to a face, voice, and recognition may not be natural, but a privilege. And maybe that's why Bessie is so almost unbearable when viewed again. Because the longer you look at it, the less it feels like an empty car, and the stronger the feeling that this is not just a skating rink, but someone's worn out, suppressed, almost erased form of life, which everyone around you has long learned to call a tool so as not to feel guilty.